Hey there, Knicks fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you for another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast, coming at you live yet again at noon during Media Day week, I will dub it, as we are counting down effectively the final 4 entrants on our top 25 Knicks of the last 25 seasons. We did number 4, Amare Stoudemire on Monday, and then yesterday, after our Media Day discussion, Julius Randle at number 3. And today, as we reveal not only number 2, but effectively number 1, I have some esteemed guests with me. Let's see. I introduced DJ first yesterday. So, Sean, sorry, you got to go to the back of the line. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, John.
How you doing?
I'm outstanding, John Macri. We are so back. Let's go, Mets. I apologize to the Knicks Film School faithful yesterday who were in the comments saying how salty and bothered I was. Shout out to the Mets fans in our audience who clearly knew why and why that's affected my mood so much over the last couple days and weeks and months and potentially years. Yet one win can just change everything. Shout out to Brandon Nimmo. I never doubted you. Shout out to Francisco Alvarez. I never doubted you. We are so back. World Series back on. Juan Soto is a New York Met. And I will even extend the congratulations to Big Brother across town. Sean, congratulations to the New York Yankees. They made the playoffs. They're 1 game back for the division. Playoff baseball is alive and well here in the Big Apple, baby. And I am so excited to talk about number 1 or number 2, the most beloved Knicks of the last 25 seasons in my life and hopefully in yours as well.
Well, Sean with a W needs the Yankee pat on the back because I've paid attention to football for all of about 5 minutes this season. 3 minutes when the Ravens had the most heartbreaking defeat of the season in week 1. And then about 2 minutes this weekend when I realized Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers were in first place over the loser Baltimore Ravens. Oh, by the way, Sean's a Ravens fan. Hi, Sean. How you doing?
I'm fine. Happiness equals reality minus expectations. And as I tweeted yesterday, when I walked into the bar to watch Ravens Lions, I saw my friend Paul, who's Lions fan. I said, I don't have a good feeling about this game because the team that already does not have a pass rush is now missing their best pass rusher and their starting defensive tackle. And what a surprise, the Detroit Lions ran the ball down our throat and passed the ball whenever we wanted. But to Andrew's point, there will be playoff baseball in New York this fall. Definitely in the Bronx. Queens.
Dog, I sent the olive branch. What's wrong?
Yeah,
Why,
like that's
I said I legit was
man.
like, congrats to you. Why can't you just be like, hey, congrats to you?
Again, Andrew, as we spoke about on text and on during phone calls, I have no ill will towards you, and I actually have no ill will towards New York Mets. I'm a lot like Derek Jeter. Like I don't hate the Mets. They're the Mets. Like when the Mets are in the playoffs, I want them to go as far as they can. I want them to make the World Series. And if they don't face the Yankees, I want them to win the World Series.
Oh, that's very nice.
However,
that's very kind.
However, there are a lot of Mets fans this offseason that acted like the city was under new management, right? So for those Mets fans, if the Mets do not make the playoffs this year, those fans I will have words for, but not for you, Andrew, because you, sir, are a man of integrity.
So here's the problem. Is I'm absolutely not and definitely talked so much shit when the Mets got Juan Soto. So I appreciate you absolving me from that group. I never said anything silly like the city is under new management. It was just more like, how do you let little brother beat you in a bidding war is more the direction I went.
Yeah.
Look, we can move on to basketball for sure. This is going to be a chaotic week. I am positive tomorrow I will feel the exact same way as I did today because the Mets have never let me down and they never will. I am here for the conversation we're about to have, though. I mean, you said you're just like Derek Jeter. I hope that doesn't mean you're bad at running a baseball team, but hopefully you're also
I probably would be.
You probably would be just as good as Derek Jeter. Hopefully you're like our number 2 on this list. And as far as I'm concerned, you are in the Knicks Film School Hall of Fame, sir. And we are about to talk about a Hall of Famer.
Speaking of little brother and city being under new management, or I guess more accurately, because they were still in Jersey at the time, tri-state area being under new management. This could have been a very different podcast series in countless other directions if James Dolan doesn't maybe sort of get himself involved on that fateful. Was it February, Andrew?
Yep.
February night?
It was after the All-Star break. Yeah.
It was after the All-Star break. I should know because Melo's first game. Oh, sorry, I just spoiled it. Well, pretend you didn't hear that, folks. Melo's first
and the
game,
reveal is, ladies and gentlemen, number 2 on our list is Carmelo Anthony. There we go. We're doing a show.
His first game was the night that I took and passed, proud to say, day 2 of the New York State bar exam. So, boy, when I tell you I went out and got lit that night.
February 22nd, 2011.
There you go. But yeah, I mean, like, Bobby Marks has been on this show. He's been obviously on other programs talking openly about how, Brooklyn, I keep saying Brooklyn, New Jersey, the Nets thought that Melo was going to they were going to get Melo. And then it was only after the Knicks swooped in and gave Denver, I mean, let's just say it, every conceivable thing that they could have possibly expected in that trade, that Carmelo Anthony became a Knick and now is number 2 on this list. And I can't wait to talk about him, and I can't wait to talk about his placement and his legacy, not only with you, Andrew, who has taken on, I don't know if you wanted this hat, but you definitely wear it, like the Melo guy here at Knicks Film School, and also with Shawn. And could we actually, Andrew, before I go through the resume, can we jump around the order a little bit? Can we get the voting totals up? Because we have to say why Shawn is here.
1 second. Yes, we can.
Okay. Shawn trying to make it like he's not that guy because he showed up today wearing a Syracuse Orangeman t-shirt. Very fashionable. It's a good color for you, Shawn. But as you are watching on YouTube, you will see all the faculty votes for Carmelo Anthony. There's Shawn holding up his champs poster, Syracuse basketball team, which Carmelo Anthony obviously led to a title. And I see a lot of 2s right there in that row. A lot of 2s for Carmelo Anthony and 1 number 3. And that number 3 is to you, Shawn with W. Do you want to say anything before we get started, or do you want to just save it for the pod, as they say?
We'll save it for the pod.
Yeah, save it for the pod. Yeah,
save it for the pod.
Well,
okay.
I clearly you did want to be like Derek Jeter because you didn't put Melo at number 2 here. Number 2, Derek Jeter.
Number 2, Derek. I like it.
John,
number 2, Derek
Jeter. Yes. I'll do the social plug. We'll get into the show.
Sounds good. Okay. Be sure to follow us at Knicks Film School, at Knick Film School, SKOOL, wherever you get your social media from. Andrew, I hope you're sitting down for this. I not only put out an Instagram clip today from our Media Day episode yesterday, I scheduled 2 additional clips to go out on my own personal Instagram feed, which you can find all of our personal Instagram feeds on the description to this episode. You can help support us on Patreon, help support the Knicks Film School newsletter on Substack. You could turn on your alerts for YouTube and also obviously subscribe, and then give us a nice kind rating and review wherever you get your podcasts. Okay. Now that's
to answer the question, by the way, someone asked in the chat, who did he have at number 2? You could see Shawn had Julius Randle at number 2, which we could kind of start here, and I'll pass the ball back in a second, John. Sure. But I did say yesterday, Shawn, that when John made the case that more people could have made an argument for Melo and Randle to be closer, that it's not as clear cut as the Knicks Film School faculty seem to have it, that 1 is 2, 1 is 3. I said Shawn will be here tomorrow and could talk about potentially making that case. I'll be totally honest with you, and this is the last time we could talk about the voting. I thought this would be a contested thing. I thought more people would have Melo at 2 or Melo at 3 and Randle at 2 because of the argument John made yesterday. More playoff success, more efficiency. Like, you could make the argument if you wanted to. I wouldn't make that argument. And I'm surprised it's only Shawn that ended up there, and it's why you end up being the hero. Maybe the hero or the villain in this story today, Shawn.
Sean, can I ask you a question? Was it?
Of course, go ahead.
Podcast over, folks. We're going home. Was it closer for you to decide between 1 and 2 or 2 and 3?
2 and 3.
Okay. I just wanted to get that out of the way. So there was a clear number 1 for you. Yeah. I mean, like, look, as far as the voting ended up going, and now obviously there's not really much suspense left for who is going to be the number 1.
Can't wait for the Cam Reddish episode tomorrow.
Meaningful. The meaningful Cam.
Most meaningful episode we've ever done.
Hashtag meaningful.
I want you both to know every time I write that word in the newsletter, I put a hashtag in front of it. It's just
John, I texted my parents the other day, hashtag meaningful. Like, it's part of my lexicon now, unfortunately.
Maybe Webster can add the hashtag before the word in the next edition. The people who read my newsletter is like a small subset, and I think the people who comment on the newsletter are even smaller subset. But when I wrote that, like, hey, I think there's a real argument for Carmelo at 1 as opposed to 2, that's where I got the pushback. I don't know that the larger Knicks watching community, Knicks watching community, fan base in general, would have been, apoplectic to the people who actually care about the series that we're doing if we had put Randall before Melo. I'm curious what you guys think about that, putting our own personal opinions aside.
Let's give the floor to Shawn, who actually put Randall ahead of Melo.
Okay. All right. So this is not the first quote unquote controversial ranking that I've had, because I did not rank Jeremy Lin in the top 25, along with one Jeff J. Shout out to my man, and Chris Persianis. Shout out to Chris. And a lot of the pushback that I got about that was, it's not best players, it's top players, right? So it's not, and when you say top, that can introduce different criteria than like who's the better basketball player. So if we're gonna, you know what? All right.
You're getting into dicey territory here, because we can go in a lot of different directions with like best versus top versus best for the Knicks. That's a lot.
Yeah, I think even like on Twitter, I forgot who responded. They're like, it's crazy that he's not top. It's crazy that Jeremy Lin you don't have him in the top 25. Or no, like he's not one of the best 25. And it's like, I'm like, it's not best, it's top. Let me be clear. There is no world where I think Julius Randle is a better basketball player than Carmelo Anthony.
Okay.
Let me be absolutely clear. But the list is not the best 25 Knicks who put on the uniform the last 25 years. It is the top 25 Knicks.
Top 25 Knicks. Are you emphasizing Knicks there?
Knicks.
Okay.
Knicks. Not the top, not the best 25 players. It's like, for example, it's like Kawhi Leonard is the best player to ever put on a Raptors jersey. However, the greatest Raptor of all time is Kyle Lowry. That doesn't mean that Kyle Lowry is a better basketball player than Kawhi Leonard, right? So if we're gonna do the top, I love when John does the sideways look. It's like
because to me this is the discussion, because it's not even you're making it more about like how good the player was, and you're accounting for time frame. I think there is how much of their greatness is intertwined with the organization, and whether it's success or the #meaningfulness there's a lot to this discussion, and I appreciate you getting into it. That's all.
Yeah. And I will say this, the beauty of these lists is the subjectivity that every person has, and every person has like this is your idea. You didn't come up and you didn't say, when you told us about this, you didn't say, here is the criteria you must follow. It is who's the top 25. Go ahead, right?
Yep.
So when it comes to top 25 Knicks of the last 25 years, I don't like. I'll quote another Syracuse person who attended Syracuse University, the late great Al Davis, who said,
Wow.
"If everyone in the room is thinking the same thing, no one is thinking." And I was to Andrew's point, I was legitimately shocked that I was the only one that voted the way I did. Well, I should no. Surprised, not shocked.
Surprised.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And during the Jeremy Lin episode, which you have listened, if you have not listened to that episode yet, please go back and listen to it. Because listen, a click is a click, and impression is impression. I gave my criteria was success on the basketball court as well as team success. And I look at what Julius Randle, like, I listened to yesterday's show live. And when you talked about the rebirth of the New York Knicks, as I like to call the Knickerbocker Revolution, it's and you ranked Julius 4th, right? And then Andrew kind of pushed back. It's like, well,
no,
it's vice versa. I ranked him 4th.
Okay, and you're like, players, but you need, like, Tibbs could be the greatest coach, or you need players, right?
Yeah.
And for me, the Knickerbocker Revolution does not start without Julius Randle. And when I look at the playoff success, and I'll say this, this is my subjective criteria. Like, I look at and I said this on the Lim podcast, I look at the era between when Patrick Ewing retired to the Leon Rose era as the grasping at straws era, where we were so used, like, we would, as a collective fan base, anything that happened, we would elevate and deify and whatever. And it's like, even though there was no sustainability, there was no, like, this is like, and again, I understand why people would rank Lin in the top 25. I understand why people would rank Melo 2 or 1. I don't think it's crazy.
Okay.
Especially the fans who started watching this team this century.
Yeah.
I started watching this team in 1992 when the Knicks would make the playoffs and win a playoff series by rolling out of bed.
Yeah.
So for me, looking at the success, like this, the Leon Rose era is far, I would say, I don't think it's a stretch, is more successful than the grasping at straws era.
It's not. I mean, it's not close. Yeah.
And the catalyst of the grasping at straws era is Julius Randle. And the last thing I'll say, and you guys could know, we can actually talk about Melo and big him up because he deserves to be bigged up, is that the common refrain that is given to when people push back on, like, how when people elevate Melo in the fan base and people push back and say, like, well, he didn't win anything, only one playoff series in 6 years. The common pushback is, and it's fair, is like, look at his team, look at his supporting cast. He didn't have much to work with.
We're going to get to it.
I would like to remind you all that the New York Knicks in 2020, 2021 were on a 47-win pace with a team where 40% of their starting lineup was for game 1 against the Hawks was out of the league in 2 years. And that was because of Julius Randle.
Okay. Coach
of the year had something to do with that, but I do agree that
players
Randle,
players got to play.
I agree the players play. I
look at you.
I didn't say it's all his. I didn't say he is all because of him. I said he was the catalyst because listen. But you know what? I'll say this. If Tibbs takes over the team the year before,
yeah,
I don't think they're a 4 seed.
So the tough part about talking about the we hear season and them getting a 4 seed and them, like you said, being on a 47-win pace and trying to decide who has credit, it's like every year is different in the NBA. You don't know what the Celtics are going to be. Kevin Durant didn't play in the league the year before, so maybe it's easier to get a 6 seed or a 4 seed or a 5 seed. Mm-hmm. The Celtics, that was the last year of Brad Stevens as a head coach, the We Hear season. So they were in the play-in back then. And then the following year they hired, like, it was a very weird season that that's why we somewhat thought it was fluky when the following season, all these other teams get healthier. And the Knicks and the Hawks, two teams that played in the first round, end up one out of the playoffs and one in the play-in again. So it's why just context matters in that sense. The only pushback I have, because I love Julius Randle. I'm glad we got to celebrate him yesterday. I'm glad somebody ranked him too, to be honest. I'm glad that your ranking exists. I don't think Melo and any success you want to say happened with him in New York is grasping at straws. That was the peak of what you could have with a Carmelo Anthony led team of that iteration. We will get into regrets and things I wish would have gone differently. Hello, Andrea Bargnani. But I think there was a plan put in place that then a lot else went wrong that I don't believe is grasping at straws. I do think there was something there that you can point to as something that was successful. It was just short-lived because of
things.
Well, we'll talk about it.
We're gonna
talk
about it. So let's go through the resume, and then I have a couple stats that I want to throw at you guys, and we'll get into the categories. So attended Syracuse University. He was the 2003 NCAA champion. Storybook season. I remember watching that championship game. Yes.
Real quick, Sean. So were you at Syracuse in 2003?
Yes.
In case Knicks fans who don't know that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I watched that game in the Carrier Dome on April 4th, 2003, which is the greatest achievement of my sporting life. Like, it is. Like, watching your school win the national title while on campus, like, the only thing that can top it is if these dudes win the title.
Yeah, if the
Knicks
Knicks
either
win
they win the title or Tottenham. Like maybe if Tottenham win the Champions League. No, listen, brother, Tottenham or the Knicks of England. Trust me.
That's true. There's a whole country that is behind Tottenham, whereas the
whole country's not behind Tottenham. That's the whole.
You just found out how very little I know about soccer. I apologize.
Listen.
Yes, go ahead.
What the top moment of my sporting life thus far is probably when Tiger won the Masters. What was it, 5 years ago? Because that was a victory not only for Tiger, who I loved, but it was a victory for old people, who I am. So clearly, the Knicks winning is going to be my number one when it happens.
What was the date that the Syracuse won the title against Kansas?
April 4th, 2003.
Yeah, it's Jeremy's birthday.
Oh, hey, happy birthday, Jeremy.
Good things happened on April 4th.
Meanwhile, he roots for UConn. By the way, I'm wearing this shirt because this is the shirt from the 6 overtime game where we beat UConn in the biggest tournament. I-95 Bully, what up? I see you. Continue.
Okay. Drafted number 3 overall in 2003 by Denver. Made the playoffs in his first year. Controversially, in quotes, traded to the Knicks with Chauncey Billups in 2011 for 4 players, 1 pick, and 1 swap. We doing let's see how quick I can do this. Mozgov, Chandler, Gallinari, and Felton, right?
Yep.
Okay. And the picks became. There was the pick swap involved with that. No, that wasn't the pick swap.
Or that wasn't not a pick swap.
No, a pick swap did go out in there. The pick swap became Jamal Murray, which we'll talk about. Yeah,
it was a swap. It wasn't just like a straight
up. The pick that went out from the Melo trade became, I believe, it's the Dario Saric.
So it was that was Saric,
yeah.
And then the swap went out in the Melo trade, and then they traded the pick that the Nuggets had the right to swap with. And then that eventually gave Murray to the Nuggets and Jakob Poeltl, I believe, to the Raptors.
Right.
Okay. He was selected to 6 All-Star teams and 2 All-NBA teams as a Knick. Won the 2012-13 scoring title for New York. First player to win a scoring title for the Knicks since Bernard King, who was a player he was often compared to. First in total points. Field goals made, 3-point field goals made, free throws made, win shares, and minutes. All first for all those categories since the start of the 2000-2001 season. Second in points per game, 24.7. Again, during the relevant time period, only Jalen Brunson has a higher scoring average. And then enshrined in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame as part of the class of 2025. Can I throw a couple of statistics and then we'll get into it?
Please do.
So, my recollection when Carmelo was here, and certainly my impression from talking to people about Melo over the last few years, and certainly, again, just reading responses to when I wrote the newsletter about him a couple weeks ago, is that people felt that his tendencies detracted from the group team winning games. And if you want to get even a little bit more specific, he should have passed more because his shot diet was not all that efficient. So I was cleaning the glass earlier today, and I went to his page, and this is a guy that, while he was in New York, I'm going to read off the percentages or percentiles where he ranked for his position in efficiency. So the 27 games that after he was traded here in the 2010-2011 season, he was in the 83rd percentile. The 11-12 season, not as good. He was in the 58th percentile. The 12-13 season, obviously the season they won 54 games, I made it to the second round, 79th percentile. Following season, 80th percentile. And then the 2014-15 season, 57th percentile. And then after that, it started to go downhill the last few years. But that's a solid 4.5-year stretch, which those percentiles for efficiency would be impressive for like most players. When you look at his usage rate, which again, I'm going to read the percentiles: 98th percentile, 98th percentile, 100th percentile, 95th percentile, 100th percentile. Again, those are for the position he played. And then the last part, Melo didn't pass the ball enough. Here were his assist percentile rankings. Again, accounting for position. First 5 years as a Knick. 83rd percentile, 94th percentile, 85th percentile, 91st percentile, 94th percentile. And then his second to last year, he was actually in the 96th percentile league-wide for wings. And then last stats I'm going to read off. Did Melo drive winning? Okay. First couple of years wasn't so great. The Knicks were a better team while Melo was on the court than when he was off the court, or at least so the numbers said. 12-13 season, plus 4.2 per 100 possessions, with Melo on the court. That was in the 79th percentile league-wide. It's a pretty good number. I think you have to account for the fact that that team's strength arguably was its depth and how many quality rotation players they had. You know, we did a Kurt Thomas episode. We did a Marcus Camby honorable mention episode. Like Kenyon Martin didn't make our list, but like if we had gone to 50, he might have made it. You know, they had so many guys on the outskirts of their rotation. So it's not totally surprising that the on-off number isn't crazy good there. But then we get to the next 2 years. Plus 10.4 points per 100 possessions. That ranked in the 95th percentile league-wide. That was during the 13-14 season, which many people feel it was Melo's best individual season. They were actually 2.2 points per 100 possessions stingier when Melo was on the floor on defense, to say nothing of the plus 8.2 per 100 on offense. And then the following season, 14-15, which Melo was injured for a lot of it, plus 10.6, 94th percentile. 99th percentile in terms of offensive improvement, plus 13.4 points per 100 possessions when he was on the court. Those numbers, any way you cut them, are elite. And I understand, Sean, that like it's about winning and it's about driving winning and all of those sorts of things. To Andrew's point, and I don't know who wants to go first here, but I think this is the discussion we need to have before we get into the categories. Many people have tried to separate Melo, what he did versus didn't do, from the context of the team at the time. And I think when you factor in the utter disaster that the organization was really right at the end of the 12-13 season, shout out Andrea Bargnani. Shout out to whatever the fuck consulting firm they hired to help the front office make decisions on their behalf. Hello, CAA. Hello, Leon Rose. Like, it was a disaster. They did everything possible to sabotage this guy and his career, to say nothing of the team at large. And I don't know how you're supposed to consider him and what he could have done or might have done outside of that context. I don't.
Go ahead, Andrew. No, go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead.
Look, these are not things I've already said, defended, anytime I've ever defended Carmelo Anthony, I've understood what his shortcomings are and acknowledged them. I agree. There could have been more ball movement. There could have been more trust in his teammates. There could have been less ISO Melo. I also remember multiple end of game situations where the conversation was, why didn't he pass to Jose Calderon more, or name obscure Knick point guard? And it's why, like, when the Jeremy Lin thing happened, and Jeff so eloquently put this out on the honorable mention pod, but I was definitely feeling it at the time. The conversation of how will Melo adjust his game to Jeremy Lin, not how will the G Leaguer adjust his game to the Hall of Famer. And I just remember the disrespect his way for what he can't do, never really acknowledged what he can do. I always thought there was a path, and I know Bill Simmons has mentioned this. There was a path to building a Knick championship team, especially during the NBA at that time, that was similar to what the Mavericks did with Carmelo Anthony. We're watching a Knicks team, or at least we watched a Knicks team 2 years ago, with a defensively challenged best player who was also an elite scorer, albeit significantly more efficient, which is why potentially tomorrow we'll have a conversation. Maybe we'll have a conversation about Jalen Brunson tomorrow. I don't know. You'll have to tune in tomorrow to see who ends up being number one on our list. But I always acknowledged the shortcomings while recognizing there was a lot of good there too. And it's why I come to this podcast, guys, with so much joy and so much like so little animosity in my heart. It's why I was welcoming Sean's ranking. And I know you've pushed back over the years, Sean. You and I have done pods in the past about whether the trade, how detrimental it actually was and was justified. And I just he's one of the most beloved Knicks. They might retire his number this season. He just made the Hall of Fame scoreboard. I think the league has spoken at this point to how Carmelo Anthony should be celebrated and remembered, even if you also want to acknowledge some of his shortcomings as well.
Mr. Hardie.
So listen, everything that you said, John, about, the utter dumpster fire
buffoonery
that was this franchise in terms of how they operated is true, and clearly that's not Carmelo Anthony's fault. I do believe that you should control what you can control, and Carmelo Anthony cannot control trading for Andrea Bargnani, or let's hire Derek Fisher to be head coach, or
or Jeff Hornacek, or Kurt Rambis.
Or, I mean, listen, we can, yes, right? Or listen, we could be here all day. So you can control what you can control, and there were things that Melo could have done differently and chose not to. And because he was the Knicks, clearly their best player, that does not give him, well, no, he can do whatever he wants, but there are unintended consequences to everything we say and do. The 2013 Knicks, I remember telling my friend Allie about, at the time, I was like, for us to win the championship, because I'm here trying to win the championship, not just get to the first round, get to the second round, give the Heat a hard. No, I'm trying to win the championship, right? And I said, the way for this team to win the championship, as where the current constructed, where they have a clear number one, like an A, and no A minuses, but a lot of Bs, is to follow the mold of the 2010-2011 Dallas Mavericks, led by one Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah.
And, I have a friend of mine on Twitter that said years ago that Mark Cuban was James Dolan in a 10-gallon hat, because some of the decisions and personnel that the Mavericks made over the years were baffling.
Yes.
However, the Dallas Mavericks, for a stretch of 11 seasons in a row, won 50 games, no matter who in the hell Dirk Nowitzki's teammates were. And that included Mr. Cuban saying, you know what? 6 years, $60 million is way too much money for the Steve Nash guy. He can go. But Dirk Nowitzki, who is my favorite non-Knick of all time, said, you know what? This is what we got. I'm going to put these guys in the best possible positions to succeed. And I don't feel like Carmelo Anthony did that as consistently as a guy like Dirk Nowitzki. Now, you want to talk about Hall of Famer, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I said to say, there are things that were out of his control that I will not hold against him, but there are things within his control that he chose not to do, and he doesn't get a pass. And I'm not going to sweep it under the rug because, this is the best Knicks team I've seen since 1999.
No, I don't think anybody's trying to sweep any of it under the rug, and I'm not.
Andrew is. No, I'm kidding.
No,
I'm kidding.
I have a retort, but it's a thing that annoys Sean very much, and
it won't be the most annoying thing you ever said to me. So
I definitely won't be. I'm positive it won't be. You sound like a Yankee fan, and this is what I've said for years and years, that unless you win the championship, that's what I'm here to do, then the season's a failure. And that's a fair perspective to come from when you've seen so many championships in your life. And I keep reminding everybody, the Knicks have the Mets resume of success. I, as a Met fan, appreciate David Wright seasons that went nowhere. I'm about to appreciate potentially a Juan Soto season that went nowhere. And that's how I'm able to look at Carmelo Anthony and appreciate seasons that didn't end in championships, because I never got to root for Derek Jeter, where, the only thing that matters is if we win the last game of the season in the playoffs. And it's just different perspectives.
So I'm going to jump in here and I'll say this, then maybe we can go to the categories. I think the reason why, like, you could have done more or you could have been different gets put on Melo more than it does a whole lot of other players in his echelon, I'll say, in NBA history, which is to say, like, Hall of Famers, maybe not unanimous top 75 players ever, but like either, like, let's say bottom 25 of the top 75, or like in Melo's case, not unanimous. Listening to Zach Lowe and Howard Beck talk about Melo and Dwight getting in the Hall of Fame a couple weeks ago. I think it was Howard who said he did not have Melo in his top 75. And I'm sure he was not the only one, because of like these very conversations. The difference between Melo and some of those other guys, like I'm thinking of like Chris Bosh and like Ray Allen and like other guys who, like, clearly were not good enough to be
Dame Lillard.
The best. What?
Dame Lillard.
Sure, Dame Lillard. Like, none of these guys were good enough to be the best player on a championship team, because they weren't. Because they were the best player on some pretty good teams or decent teams. Maybe not Chris Bosh, but whatever. He had that 1 year in Toronto. And it didn't happen for them. Now, so the difference between Melo and them is, I think it gets pegged on him that he was a contributor to his own demise more than they were, because of like the no trade clause, and because he, as Andrew has talked openly about, followed the advice of the lawyers talking to the players union ahead of the lockout. Get that money. Don't wait. Because of the Jeremy Lin thing, and which Andrew just referenced about Melo maybe looking at it and be like, why am I supposed to be the one to fit in with a guy who was out of the league however many months ago? I'm Carmelo Anthony.
John, quick correction. Not out of the league. Wasn't in it. Like, never in it. Was not in the league to then be sent out of the league. Right.
And then when you add on top of that, it's like, it's not just that he didn't pass as much as people wanted to. It's that people were sure he could pass more and chose not to pass more because of how he wanted to play. People were sure about that. And did Melo maybe feed into that with some of his own comments? Maybe. And all of that, I think, combines to sully the fact that, in my estimation, and again, I was not the biggest Melo guy. I'm still not the biggest Melo guy. I don't think a team with, again, we could go down the laundry list of players who were contemporaries of Melo that definitely couldn't have been the best player on a championship team. I think Carmelo could have been. I don't know what year it could have been. I don't know what competition would have needed to be maybe slightly watered down. Is this a hot take? It probably is a hot take, right?
Bill Simmons agrees with you. He said that for years at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe it's not that high. I don't know, but that's kind of where I'm at with him.
Isn't it like similar to the Tibbs conversation in the sense of
very, very
Tibbs has never won a championship. I don't think there's that much difference between him and Nick Nurse, him and Mike Malone. I think at a certain point, your best player.
Nurse is way more flexible and malleable than Tibbs is.
I think the last couple of years in Philly haven't shown that.
I saw Nick Nurse break out a boxing one in the NBA Finals.
He did. I do think Tibbs also went to a switch-heavy defense against the Celtics too. Like there are things that if you do Tibbs, right? Eviction notice Tibbs. He eventually, when the desperation shows up, I think there is a world where Tibbs could have won a championship. He just hasn't. So that gets labeled against him.
I can't believe I'm the one that's going to say this. I think it's similar. It's very similar to the Dirk Melo thing. Whereas if you watched those two players for the entirety of their careers, there was something about Dirk that you're like, he could, and even as I say that, was anybody saying there was something about Dirk that was different than Melo when his ass got sent home in the first round by the We Believe Warriors team? No one was saying that about Dirk then. Everybody was
Sean,
saying
you can speak to this. There was a narrative around Dirk that,
I remember,
to John's point, he was very like the clutch gene didn't exist. The whole Skip Bayless thing about how look at the results, look at the first round. Yeah. I just think it's funny. I mean, not for the reason Dirk didn't win a championship in 2006 is because there were some referees that may have. There is well documented proof that there were referees that were fixing games, or at least that were determining outcomes.
David Stern decided that Dwayne Wade could dribble into the lane, spin around backwards, throw the ball over his head, and he'd get 2 free throws.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm thinking about it, if instead of all of the nonsense that happened in the 2013 offseason, the Knicks actually made smart moves. To say nothing of again, the Amare amnesty conversation that we had earlier in the week, other moves that could have been made along the way.
Mm-hmm.
All it took for Dirk was that one season to change the entire narrative for him. What if all Melo needed to change the narrative was just one season?
So the difference, I think, with Dirk is this, because I started liking Dirk Nowitzki during the 2006 playoffs when, was it 2000? Yeah, 2006, when they went into San Antonio and won Game 7. If you look on YouTube, Dirk is a 3-point play near the end, manager jumping fouls, and I was like, wait a minute. These dudes won Game 7 in San Antonio? Nobody wins Game 7 in San Antonio.
It's a bad man.
This guy might be onto something. But it took the disaster of 2007, which I always say the fact that Avery Johnson changing his lineup for game 1 when you are a 68-win team was but no one else, whatever. Between that and what a lot of people do forget is the year before the title, they lost in the first round they lost to the 7th seed Spurs. And those two rock bottom moments, but Dirk even talks about after 07, he didn't touch a basketball for months, whatever. And he was like, all right, something has to change. Something has to change. And I don't know if that and I'm not gonna say that Melo never thought about whatever, but it's just in terms of how and also Dirk shirked that label, not because he won the championship, but because he beat the Heatles, and on the way swept the Lakers in the second round. Right?
And a good OKC team.
Yeah. And to your point, there's so many things that were out of Melo's control. I'm not gonna hold against him. But there were some things that were in his control that we will get to when we get
a lot.
to these
All right,
categories.
let's get to the categories right now, because I think there's some good stuff to get. I was about to beat me to it, Andrew. Best memory, lasting image as a Knick. I'm not gonna go for the. Well, no, I'm gonna do both because they'll be quick. My best memory of Carmelo Anthony as a Knick, the honest best memory of him as a Knick, is this is really the Jared Jeffries pass game.
I was gonna say, I thought no one was gonna say that. Oh my goodness!
Why didn't he pass more? Jared Jeffries drops the ball out of bounds.
That is his best game in a Knick uniform, right?
I think it's, to me, the most. He's had better games. It's the most impressive.
That's the most impactful.
Yeah, it's the most impactful.
Yeah. So guy had 42 points, 17 rebounds in a game on the road in Boston. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was crazy. And then but for me, the real answer to this question, if I only have to pick one, would be the lasting image, and that's 3 to the dome.
Yeah. Exactly. The actual lasting image. Yeah. Sean, what about you?
So I actually was gonna say that 42-17 game because I didn't think either. No, I didn't think either you were gonna say it. I thought, like, to me, there's 2 other moments that I think were clear, which I'm not gonna spoil. Let Andrew say them. I always remember that 42-17 game because Bill Simmons tweeted after the game, like, we almost lost to Carmelo Anthony and the Austin Toros. The Austin Toros used to be a G League team. And that was like his thing, like, yo, this, like, that strengthened Bill's belief, like if he did this with these guys, like Bill Walker and Jared Jeffries, whatever, like, imagine had a team round, whatever.
I'm gonna pull up that box score. Keep talking.
I'm on my way to do it too. Yeah. Let's
so I'll probably there's two others. I'll take one of them. And for me, it's when he scored 62 at the Garden. And I say that because he took the record back from Kobe Bryant. And I was in the building when Kobe scored 61. That was February 2nd, 2009. And I remember that date because it was my best friend Dorian's birthday. Dorian's a Laker fan, and the Lakers always play the Knicks around his birthday in New York. I don't know why. And I'm and again, this is 2009. This was in the middle of Dream Week. If you know, you know. And of course, the Knicks are bad. And of course, it's 40% Laker fans and it's Kobe jerseys everywhere and he's scoring whatever. And it was just it was one low point in a series of low points during the, what I call the grasping at straws era, which I don't put on I put on the fans, by the way, not on the franchise. Like the fans who, like, we will, anything that happens, we will elevate it to the levels of like, dude, like, I saw the Knicks make the finals, like, whatever. Like, but for him to take that record back, for that record to belong to a Knick again, will always be my lasting image, because that record should be held by a Knick, because Knick had it before Kobe, and Knick had it afterward.
It should be held by a Knick. I've always had a love-hate relationship. I remember that night. I was watching that night. I've always had a love-hate relationship with that game and that moment, and the fact that it is celebrated, which I'm not begrudging you for celebrating it for the reason that you're celebrating it, but like that season was just so that I would argue that might be the most disappointing, probably the most disappointing Knicks season of my life. I don't know what other competition there would be. Maybe the year after the We Hear year, but that it came in that year was,
yeah, the Melo 62-point game for you, it sounds like, is similar to RJ's buzzer beater, because it happened when it happened during the season that it happened in. And for a lot of people, that's like an iconic moment for a player they admired. And for you, it's like, this team, I'm just glad they won a game, you know?
Yeah, well, man, I think I hold the RJ buzzer beater not as a higher esteem as an achievement, but the Knicks, they were still on life support because they were like that. Didn't that like push them ahead of the Celtics for like a game, or tied them with the Celtics?
It did. The Celtics then went like 32-7 the rest of the season. So the two teams went in opposite directions. This is the box score, by the way,
I was about to
from
read
Melo's
it.
62-point game. Melo's 62-point game. So
Oh,
he finished,
that's for this one. Okay.
That's for this one. 62 points, 13 rebounds, 0 assists. Apologies, everybody. 23 of 35, going 6 of 11 from 3 and 10 of 10 from the line. This, to me, is his actual best game. Mm-hmm. Most impactful is what John's about to talk about, which is this is the box score from the game 2 of the first round against the Celtics in 2011.
Some highlights for those listening on the podcast. The second leading scorer in this game was Tony Douglas, who went 5 of 16 from the field. Melo, by the way, had 0 assists in the 62-point game, had 6 assists in this game. The third leading scorer in this game was Jared Jeffries. And then after Jeffries, Ronnie Turioff and Sean Williams were tied with 6 points apiece, followed by Landry Shevin, Landry Fields and Amari Stoudemire tied at 4 points apiece. Shout out to Amari, 2 for 9 from the field. And then after Roger Mason and Anthony Carter, God love him, Henry Walker, 32 and a half minutes, 11 shots, 0 made field goals, and somehow led the team in plus minus.
Just look at this starting 5. Ronnie Turioff, Tony Douglas, Landry Fields. This is the game Amari hurt himself in warm-ups dunking, right?
I was trying to remember if this was that game.
Which is why he only played 17 minutes. Yeah. And then Melo went into takeover mode, you know?
I'll say 2 quick things. One, anyone who besmirches the 62-point game because Melo had 0 assists, you're a sucker.
Thank you.
And for that, like, I forgot that Henry Walker went 0 for 11. Oh my god, Jesus Christ!
In a game, 0 for 11 in a game they lost by 3 points.
Like, you know, I cannot hold against Melo. And by the way, listen, people, I ranked him out of the hundreds of players that played for this franchise the last 25 years. I ranked him 3rd, not 13th, not 37th. 3rd.
It's not like me with Pat.
With that said, I can't put that shit back up there again. Like, I can't, Tony, oh my good, you want to talk about guys who were out of the league in 2 years? Good God, Roger Mason. Oh my goodness.
No, this is what it would have been like to watch Melo try to have a we here season. You know, look who I'm passing to. Look who is playing 20 to 25 minutes
Andrew,
with me. Yeah.
Non-Melo Knicks in that game went 18 for 60 from the field.
Mm-hmm.
Non-Melo Knicks in that game went 4 for 17 from 3. Non-Melo Knicks in that game went 11 for 16 from the free throw line. They were even missing free throws. It's awful. What's your best memory?
Rose misses another. Smith has it. Knicks down 3. Should the Bulls foul? No. Anthony for 3. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
Real quick, is it playing or is it frozen?
No, it's not playing, but we got the sound.
Damn it. Okay.
We got the sound.
This is the Melo Easter Sunday game. There is an element of this game that also matters to me in the sense that it was the official this whole season of arguing about Jeremy Lin, arguing about D'Antoni, because this is a week or so after D'Antoni was fired. The Knicks went 18 he was fired because he gave them an ultimatum: trade Carmelo Anthony so I could run the team with Jeremy Lin. And now it was Melo's team, and I always thought they could have a good team if they got out of. I was very obviously pro Melo, and it was let's lean into something else besides the way D'Antoni wants to do things. And it was a proof of concept. They went 18-6 down the stretch, won 54 games the following season. And this was for me the culmination of look how they're doing against a team that's currently the 1 seed, about to win 50 games for a second straight year. And this is for me what I thought was the full ascension of this is now Melo's team, and this is what it could look like if it was Melo's team. Just to give people context in the moment. We can now talk about what happened when it became James Dolan's team again for me, as well as something else when we talk about biggest regrets.
So remember, biggest regret is not necessarily something the player did, but our biggest regret involving the player during his time, or maybe even in this case, before his time with the franchise. Andrew, I'm gonna let you go first, and then Sean, I'll finish up.
Because I know where you guys, we could talk about the trade, like how he came here, the assets, should he have waited? Like, I know that's going to come up, right? I will just say, don't trade for Andrea Bargnani. And maybe the pick that you sent out to Denver wouldn't be in the top 10. Maybe 2 years later, the swap doesn't matter as much. Maybe save your assets to try and get Kyle Lowry, who, as Sean mentioned, is the greatest player in franchise history for a team up north. Like there were other options that you could have gone. Maybe don't amnesty Chauncey Billups and save your amnesty, so that way you can potentially amnesty Amari if his knees go south. If you want to amnesty Chauncey Billups for a player, how about you wait for the Chris Paul sweepstakes to play out? No disrespect to Tyson Chandler, but I saw what Carmelo Anthony looked like when he had Jason Kidd on his last legs who couldn't hit a three. He was acing Kidd at that point because of what his legs were and what his jumper was at that point. Now imagine if Melo played with the point guard instead of a Tony Douglas, and respect to Raymond Felton. I think Chris Paul is a little bit better. There's so many things you could have done during the Melo era, which is why I go back to where the Knicks are now. The Mikal Bridges trade gave up more than what the Melo trade did. The Knicks are just now in a position that is so much more foundationally solid than where they were when they made the Melo trade. Then it showed out over the next several years. And I think the Knicks will benefit more from trading for Mikal and how much winning I think they're going to do than how sustainable the winning ended up being back then. That is my entire piece. By all means, the floor is yours, fellas.
John.
Oh, I was gonna let you go. I have a unique one, so I'm gonna let you go first.
If okay. LeBron James is a billionaire. If he walks into a bodega and wants a bottle of water, universally a bottle of water in a bodega, not a deli in Midtown, but a bodega, a corner store, a bottle of Poland Spring water is $1. If he walks into a bodega and picks up the bottle of water, and the bodega man says, that'll be $12.95. LeBron would say, no, this is $1. And the bodega man would say, you can afford it, you're LeBron. LeBron would put the bottle of water and walk out because he would say, why would I pay more for something that I don't have to?
Probably.
I've heard this though. I've heard the takes, the process, the rationale that, and yes, Andrew, you're right. They gave up more for Mikal Bridges than they did for Melo. I've also heard that, like, look at the player they traded away. None of them were like killers, or anything like that. Although
it's an impression of me, and I maintain
that is not an impression of you.
I know you're not actually doing it. I have just made that argument before, and I maintain none of them have made an All-Star team.
And
in their lives.
and this is before Jamal Murray became the second best player in the championship series. I'm gonna put that to the side. If I have the opportunity, if I have two opportunities, I can get this player for free, or I can trade assets that I may need later to help strengthen the team. I'd rather get the player for free. However, the player in question made it perfectly clear that no, you should pay $12.95 for this bottle of water. Because if you don't, you know what? I might go to this other store. Because guess what? They're gonna I'm offensive with the analogy, but you get and to the fact that and I always say now, and for those who do not know, the Nuggets granted Melo permission to negotiate the Nets because the New Jersey Nets had 4 first-round picks and Derek Favors, who was picked 3rd the year before, on the table for Melo. But the Nuggets very smartly were like, the Nets very smartly were like, we will make this trade if you sign this extension. And then once they negotiated, and then Mikhail Prokhorov, to his credit, ended negotiations because he basically knew that this was a bluff to try and get the Knicks it was a bluff to try and get the Knicks to blink, and James Dolan blinked. And listen, the reason why he did it is because everyone knew that a lockout was coming, and the 3-year, $65 million extension that was currently on the table would not be on the table the following year. And Melo is always about his money. So, and I'll say this really quickly. People always push back and be like, well, you know, would you turn the money down? Like, there's this feeling in society, especially nowadays, that like chasing the bag at all costs should have absolutely positively no ramifications whatsoever. As I said earlier, there are unintended consequences for everything that we say and do. And him choosing and listen, I don't besmirch him for choosing the money.
It sounds like you do, because he was always about his bag.
And listen, it's not like Melo's come out and said like, man, if I had to do it over again, I'd do the same thing because I want the money. It's not like he's ever said that, but more towards the people who defend him that act like there should be no ramifications whatsoever for taking the money, when in life, that is just not how life works. Like, I have taken jobs because of money, and it was the worst decision I ever made. Like, that's just how life is. So if you're about winning, and if that is the decision that you made, like, for me, that's my regret, because in real time, at the time before I knew either of you two, I said, do not trade for him. Sign him in the summer. 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 Don't trade for him. Don't trade for him. Don't trade for him. He will literally be there for free in 3 months. But to even more, and I'll land the plane here. And this is not Melo's fault. If Dolan had just listened to Donnie Walsh and said, just wait until at least the trade deadline, because the trade happened on the Monday, the trade deadline was on the Thursday. If they got into Wednesday, maybe Masai Ujiri backs off on it. But Dolan did Dolan things, and here we are.
So, John, let me just... I don't think the scenario you're painting is realistic that he'd be there for free.
I don't either.
As you mentioned, he's in Brooklyn or in New Jersey the next day if the Knicks wait. I think what you're saying as your regret is more that they didn't trade for him. Because I presented the scenario 2 days ago. What if instead of the Melo trade, they wait to do the Chris Paul trade? It would have played into D'Antoni's strengths better. It would have put Amari Stoudemire with Chris Paul instead. I think that's a more fascinating what if, that the assets you used to get Melo, a much more flawed player, however much of a scorer as I admire him to be, I would take Chris Paul and the point guard with D'Antoni, the guy who turned Steve Nash into an MVP in his system. Mm-hmm. I would take that over. I would take him as an option if you're looking for an alternate reality. I don't think it's realistic to say just wait until the summer. And I was thinking it back then because, again, I didn't know there was going to be a summer. They ended up the lockout pushed the offseason until the winter. So I just the tenor around the league then, this is when I first started getting into podcasts, was like, I don't think there's going to be an NBA season next year. Everybody's being told be on your next contract, which was, again, the advice that he's getting.
And if anything, I think the realistic regret there, if you don't want to go the just don't trade for Melo route, is I regret that James Dolan got involved and just didn't entrust Donnie Walsh to land the plane. Like all James Dolan needed to do was tell Donnie Walsh, look, one way or another, come away with Carmelo Anthony before the deadline. Otherwise, it's your job. That would have been sufficient. Instead, from what, we've been led to believe from various reporting, like Dolan actually intervened, and here we are.
Sean, hold on. Sean hasn't had a chance to respond to anything I said or he said. Or you
I'll
said.
say two things real quickly. One, and this is just a difference of opinion, I do not believe for one single solitary second that Carmelo Anthony will ever put on a New Jersey Nets uniform. And I think if they don't make because Prokhorov is not making a trade unless he gets that assurance from Melo. Melo was never given that assurance. So what would happen is it went to free agency, and at free agency, if you had to choose, whatever. So that's what I believe. You can disagree, that's fine.
Yeah, we just disagree.
The second thing is, then honestly, the biggest regret I have, which is the biggest regret I would then have if I would say don't make that trade, is he should have listened to LeBron and signed a 4-year deal instead of the 5-year deal.
That is the thing I 100% agree with you on, Sean. That is something that over time I've been like, if you were just a freaking free agent, the summer of 2010, you come to the Knicks then instead of 2011, which would have cost them more assets. The thing that the sentence to Dolan's credit should never come out of my mouth, but giving him the benefit of the doubt. When Donnie Walsh showed up, he said the next 2 seasons don't matter. It's been a theme over the last 12 episodes we've done of this countdown. Shout out to David Lee. I respect what you did in your career. The 2 good seasons you had with the Knicks, they said we're just clearing out cap space because of the summer of 2010. If Melo is a free agent then, they probably get him. If Melo doesn't get traded to the Knicks and Dolan's like, so you told me for 2 seasons nothing matters. You promised me LeBron James and Dwayne Wade and whoever, and we got Amari Stoudemire. The team is now regressing after that hot start and is now 28 and 26. And I'm not getting Carmelo Anthony, and he's getting traded across town to a team that's in New Jersey that's going to be in Brooklyn next season. Like, what's the plan? Like, I would understand as a boss if I'm being given promises and I'm not being given anything in return to those promises. But again, I'm not giving Dolan any credit for anything. So I'm just going to take a step back and say, I agree with Sean on this point in particular. If Melo had decided to, this is where him potentially taking an extra year of a bag is detrimental. If he's a free agent in 2010, the decision is less harmful because the Knicks get the other prize of that offseason, which would have been Carmelo Anthony.
And for those who do not know, in the summer of 2006, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, LeBron James, and Carmelo Anthony were all free agents. And LeBron told Wade and Bosh and Melo, sign a 4-year deal instead of the maximum 5-year deal so we could be free agents in 2010 instead of 2011, because even back then, they knew a lockout will be coming in the summer of 2011. And Wade, Bosh, and LeBron signed 4-year deals, and Melo said, nah, son, I'll give me the money.
Give me my full 5. Give me the full 5.
And that is the domino effect really starts there.
So that's a perfect transition to my regret. And I had pick one of either of these. I wish Carmelo Anthony didn't get the no trade clause. And then I could even go a step further and say I wish Carmelo didn't re-sign after the 2013-14 season. I think it is pretty clear that his career would have been better off if he had left the Knicks sooner rather than later.
Do you have a team where you wish you would have gone to?
So the obvious one after, and this is what makes it tricky, after the 2013-14 season, the obvious one is Chicago, because that's.
I have a different obvious one.
Which was your obvious one?
Yeah.
LeBron left Miami to go to Cleveland, right?
Oh.
So go to Miami.
I don't remember that.
I don't think they could have signed him.
Dwayne Wade took less. And if Bosh was willing to take $496, because $496 was what Houston was offering him.
Yeah, but Melo was already going to be taking less by not signing with the Knicks if he was to sign with another team. Like, that's why I think he didn't go to Chicago, because it would have been 4 for 80 something as opposed to what the Knicks give him 5 for 1.
Yeah, I remember Tom Penn was like
a lot of money.
Yeah, it would have. I remember Tom Penn on ESPN was like basically the numbers almost half.
Yeah, it's so, but and Chicago is an issue one because at that point we didn't yet know that Derrick Rose's career as a we kind of had a sense, but Jimmy Butler was on the come up, and he was there. Tibbs was the coach. That would have been interesting. So that's the only reason why I wish he would have left in free agency after 2014 is not my number one answer. The no trade clause is my number one answer, because I genuinely believe there is I don't know how big the subset is, but I think for a subset of Knicks fans, I don't want to say holding the organization hostage, but like they wanted to trade him, I think a year and a half before they actually trade him. And I remember there were some rumors and they didn't trade him and it lingered on to the next season. Like, I think they view that as like the last straw. As like, man, it was time to move on. Everybody knew it was time to move on. You had Kristaps Porzingis in house. It was time to hand over the team. And it just kept lingering and lingering and lingering. And then obviously Phil Jackson got fired. Obviously, would we be where we are today had it not been for the no trade clause? If you connect all the dots, probably not. So do I actually regret it? No. But for Carmelo Anthony's legacy and for his own sake, I wish he didn't have that damn no trade clause, because I think people would be a little bit more forgiving of him if he was just dealt away, whether it's a year earlier or even, a year and a half earlier.
I think the actual regret you're proposing is because we haven't really said the name Phil Jackson yet in this conversation. Well, it's just the entire Phil Jackson era, because
you could go that route. That's fine.
Like, Phil ends up with Derek Fisher instead of Steve Kerr.
So
Phil ends up with a 17 win team instead of a good Knicks team, because Melo gets surgery. The team's bad. He trades away every hint of asset that they have for like second round picks and whatnot. They get Porzingis and then proceed to sign the following offseason after firing Derek Fisher. They signed Joakim Noah so he could run the triangle, even though Phil's not coaching the team. They signed Courtney Lee, like never really went and got a point guard. There's so many other things. And then there was this feud going on. Rest in peace to Charlie Rosen, who just passed away, one of the esteemed columnists, was also doing Phil Jackson's bidding in the media. You knew every time a Charlie Rosen article came out, it's because Phil wanted something out there, and it was just like, Melo's selfish. You want waivers, no trade clause, and it's like, dude, you gave it to him.
Go even further back, like firing Mike Brown, not Mike Brown. My God,
Mike D'Antoni. Oh, Mike Woodson.
No, firing
other
Mike Woodson when clearly, very clearly, the team had not lost the team. Nope. If you lose the team, a team that is ostensibly out of the playoff race does not rack off or rattle off. What was it? 9 straight wins. It
was 8 straight.
Yeah. Like, he clearly had not lost the team, and there were still pieces there that made for a good basketball team. And then the teardown effectively started in that offseason with the Tyson Chandler trade that was just, an utter disaster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's a lot. Look, the whole Phil era, total and complete disaster. So if you want to go that route, that's fine too. Okay. On that note, maybe the last time, this is going to be an interesting question, sadly. These have always been interesting questions. It will not be that interesting of a question on the next episode that we do. What role would they have? Although, I guess, I don't know, Cam Reddish's role on this current team maybe is a little bit more interesting.
I have a different question to ask that is similar to... it's similar to what role would he have in the current team? You and I, in a conversation with DJ recently, John, I proposed that if Melo comes along 6-7 years later, he's taking more threes. He's not as much of a mid-range assassin. That still exists, but the emphasis, you've got to get 9 threes up a game. Anthony Edwards is taking 11 threes a game now. Like, of course, Carmelo Anthony, one of the best shooters of all time, one of the best scorers of all time, is going to be asked to take more threes. I wonder what he is today. Like, if there's a player comp in today's league that's like, oh, that's what Melo would have been if he had come along a little bit later and he's taking 9-10 threes a game. Sean, do you have any answer?
A modern player comp? That's what you're looking for
like
here?
A modern player comp that's taking 10-11 threes. Or even like 8. Like,
you know what? I'm gonna look up one player because I think there is. Oh my! I'm gonna look up how many threes he took last year. Because if he took anywhere close to that player, this is the guy.
So are we talking about only on offense?
Yeah, on offense.
He doesn't. No, this guy doesn't take enough.
Who are you thinking, Sean?
The best player comp, the most complimentary player comp, is Jason Tatum. I think realistically, I mean, the latter day, the closest thing we have right now to a latter day Carmelo Anthony is Paolo Banchero.
That's the guy.
Paolo, yeah.
That's the guy I was going to say.
Paolo didn't take more threes.
But Paolo took 6 threes a game last year. He took 6 threes a game last year.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Tatum's a good pull, but I
but he's not. I mean,
offensively,
I hate to say it, Tatum 4 years ago was a better passer than Carmelo. Maybe 3 years ago, was a better passer than Carmelo ever was. I don't know.
I actually believe Melo's a damn good passer. He just the ability to his ability to pass is severely underrated. But
know who the comp is? He's obviously this guy. Let me be very clear. This guy is not as talented of a shot maker as Carmelo Anthony. But Brandon Ingram, from the perspective of Brandon Ingram is playing in this era. Mm-hmm. And since for however long he's been in the league, people have been telling Brandon Ingram, hey, shoot more threes. And it's not like he's a non-shooter. It's not like he won't shoot threes, but it's never as many as you want. And I feel like even if Melo was around today, I don't know, Andrew. I don't. You really think he would actually be putting up 10 threes a game?
I'm saying if he's
born 10 years later.
It's literally if he's brought up in an NBA of where are the most efficient shots.
Kevin Durant only takes 6.5 threes a game.
Durant's a different.
He's also the greatest shooter.
Greatest shooter might be the greatest scorer ever. Yeah, there's a difference in style.
He was also drafted in 2007. Again, if he's 10 years, if he's born 10 years later, he maybe takes more threes.
Yeah, this gets to the fundamental. This above all of the other bullshit that we talked about. This is the fundamental Carmelo Anthony discussion point. Was Carmelo Anthony a great shooter or was he a great scorer? Not to say that he was not also a great shooter. He was a very good shooter.
Why not both?
But I think he was always going to be a scorer first, regardless of if he was born 60 years ago, 40 years ago, or 20 years ago. I think he was always going to be who he was going to be. That was his mentality.
I don't disagree, Sean. I just again, what I'm saying is if he was always going to be something, maybe that something is different if he's born 10 years later. Like if he's born, if he's learning in AAU, if he's going to Oak Hill and they're taking 33s a game, and if he's going to Syracuse and they're taking 33s a game, there is an emphasis on how basketball is played now that you need to be taking threes. And I wonder if he grew up in an era that was different, would he, what kind of shooter would he be? Because that informs what role he would have on the Knicks today. Is it the Mikal Bridges role? Is it the Anunoby role where he's just in the corner? Are you replacing Cat with with Carmelo Anthony and going with him at the 4 with a different center out there? It changes everything with how Melo would have played then to, if you're putting a different version of Carmelo Anthony on the current Knicks. Go ahead, Sean.
I think I'll say this: the biggest. You can also say this could be the biggest regret and is completely out of his control is that the league changed while he was in it.
Yeah.
Because if the league remains the league from when he was drafted, then the conversation is different. But from the league going to pace and space and move the ball around and don't hold it, whatever, and he's just like that would have been the issue. That would have been like if the league didn't change, this whole conversation is different. In terms of what his role would be on the current team, is very similar to the conversation I had yesterday with Julius. Because at first I would say have Melo as the 4 next to Karl-Anthony Towns, but then again you have a front line of Carmelo Anthony and Karl-Anthony Towns on defense. Which So then are you putting Mitch in? Are you putting Mitch in for Towns? But then then again, you can have. It's easier to have Mitch next to Mitch next to Melo. It's easier to have Mitch next to Melo than Randall next to Mitch because Melo is clearly a better floor spacer than Julius was. Although, to your point,
gravity,
but Melo loved the mid. Julius loved the mid range. Melo loved the mid range.
I think Sonic also brings in the Amari part of are we overthinking it? Like, how are teams stopping Jalen Brunson, Karl Anthony Towns, and Carmelo Anthony on offense.
They're not.
I don't think you're overthinking it because, again, we've seen. I mean, it's not an apples to apples comparison. Last 2 years, we saw Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley, or what's left of Bradley Beal on the Phoenix Suns. Again, that's why it's not apples to apples. It's not just about putting 3 great scorers on the team together. It has to be 3 complementary pieces. And the notion of Carmelo Anthony on this current team, there are versions of this team, including Jalen Brunson and Carmelo Anthony, that I would, a prime Carmelo Anthony, that I would give anything to see, and that I 1,000,000% think could win a championship. Just plopping Melo on this roster without any subtractions or maybe adjustments to it. I'm a broken record at this point, Andrew, but it's only one ball, and I'd be damned if that wouldn't be a problem.
The only counter, and it's not a strong counter, but like Olympic Melo did exist in 2012, and is he able?
No, hold on, wait. Finish what you're saying.
Is he allowed to be prime? You're right. Is prime Melo being Olympic Melo, where he's just spacing the floor around Melo, around LeBron and Wade and Kobe
you know who
Bryant?
Told us that prime Melo was never going to be Olympic Melo? Carmelo Anthony. When he literally said this week, I think, I wasn't going to go and be a 4th option, which is what I would have been if I joined up with those guys.
Which is why it's not a strong retort. It's just, could you then still make it work if he's an off-ball guy some of the time, you know?
And by the way, I'm not saying he would be 4th option on this team. He would be the 1st option ahead of Jalen Brunson. I truly believe that.
So then does it then look more like the 2009 Nuggets, and Brunson is your Chauncey Billups, but now instead of whoever was playing center for the Nuggets back then, is it Karl Anthony Towns?
I mean, you have to stop people too.
It's the only comeback, Sean. That how are they getting stops? I just don't know who's stopping them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what it is. It's to your point, they're the post-Melo Nuggets that scored 140 points and gave up 139.
And again, do you think OG Anunoby, with all that bag of money he got last summer, would be cool with like, okay, we're gonna get you like a handful of quarter 3 attempts in this game? Go defend your ass off for 38 minutes.
That's the other part, John, that makes no subtractions impossible to talk about. You said that whole bag of money. Who's making what on this current Knicks team? If we're just plopping Carmelo Anthony, and he's easily max salary on this team. Sean, we've been all trying to talk about it. Go ahead. You have the word. You have the floor.
Karl Anthony Towns can't be on the team with Melo's on it.
I think I'm there too. Would be fun to watch on certain nights.
Yes,
I will say.
To your point, offensively, but he can't be on the team. And oh man, the Olympic Melo, I remember hearing those like, oh, what if we get Olympic Melo? I'm like, Olympic Melo is Olympic Melo because he cannot tell LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, and to take a back seat. And with Chris Paul, who has the ball in his hand. Like, that just was never, Olympic Melo was never going to happen in the NBA. It wasn't going to happen. If Melo's on this team, Karl Anthony Towns cannot be on it. Because to John's point, there's only one ball, the defensive structure, whatever. Like, and to your point, like, it at least it moves. It puts OG at the 3 and McCall at the 2, which I think they're better positions. But you can't. Well, but defensively, it's not tenable with him and Cat and
all the Cat people already hate me. So what the fuck? Give me Melo with Brunson, McCall, and OG, and Mitch as the starting 5. Throw me a little Yabusele small ball 5 at times when maybe one of those wings has to rest. I'd sign up to watch that basketball team play.
It's a very good basketball team. I think it's a better basketball team personally.
I would agree. with that. And I think even the cat, the cat defenders would
again,
not
cat defender here. I'm saying Carmelo Anthony is better than Karl Anthony Towns. That is just, to me, that it's a full stop.
Talk about when Cat's career is done, it'll be very interesting to put those two side by side. Look, Melo is going to have the accolades, All-Star appearances, certainly, but All-NBA appearances, total points, all of that. But the discussions that have been happening surrounding Karl Anthony Towns for the better part of the last decades are not too dissimilar from the conversations that took place around Carmelo Anthony during his career.
Well, let's hope, as we get into legacy, let's hope Karl Anthony Towns accomplishes more than Carmelo Anthony. All
right, so lasting legacy with Knick fans. More complicated than it has any right to be. That's my answer.
Sean.
As much shtick as I give Carmelo Anthony for forcing the trade or re-signing with the Knicks in 2014, because it was like, if you want to win, why the hell would you re-sign this team with no draft picks, no young players, whatever? At the same time, in an era where New York was always the bridesmaid and never the bride when it came to acquiring free agents, him along with Stat, but they raised their hand and said, I want to play there. When a lot of people, including the leading scorer in the history of the league, wanted no part of the smoke. So for me, it's like he chose to be here. He wanted to be here, knowing flaws and all, who we were, what we've been through, what we were about. He wanted to be here. And I will never, ever, ever, ever take that away from him. And I think that should be celebrated more.
So I will just say, because I'm very mixed on whether the Knicks should retire his number. Personally, I think it will be a fun day. I'll be in attendance for the game if it happens. I think it's cool that the Knicks have such a high standard for retired numbers. Again, to make the Mets comp. For the majority of my life, you only got your number retired by the Mets if you were a Hall of Famer, like Tom Seaver and Jackie Robinson and their first manager were the only people. Gil Hodges were the only people that got retired numbers for the Mets for the majority of my life. Then Mike Piazza made the Hall of Fame, and it's like, oh my gosh, they're actually going to retire another number. Then Steve Cohen, who rose to prominence in the 80s when the Mets and cocaine existed, like he just was like, I'm going to buy the team and retire everybody who played for this team's number from the 1980s. Oh yeah, David Wright, you too. So now they have like 11 retired numbers, and it's not as special. If you retire Melo's number, it changes the standard a tad. I understand he made the Hall of Fame. Bernard King is in the Hall of Fame, doesn't have his number retired. I'm sure there are other Knicks that could have that case. I'm mixed on changing the standard. However, I do believe if you are going to change the standard, changing for Carmelo Anthony is not a bad thing. And we really haven't talked much about the craft that he had when he played and the craft that it was to watch him when he was on one of his heaters. The coolest thing for me about some of these player podcasts that have rose to prominence over the past few years is so many that talk about their first initiation to the league being the time Melo gave me 40. And it's like, oh, then I knew this is a different level of play, that I have to be so much better as a defender because these are the types of guys I'm going to have to guard in this league. And a lot of players say the first time their baptism into the NBA is when they had to go up and guard Carmelo Anthony. And last but not least, I'm just going to read two stats, just a couple of stats, actually. Carmelo Anthony in his career for true shooting is at 54.3 or 0.543, whatever you want to call it. That is 0.07 behind Kobe Bryant. We are talking about, as far as efficiency is concerned, their field goal percentages are very close. Their points per game are a little bit higher for Melo, but only because Kobe has a couple of years at the end of his career that he's not as good of a scorer. I always said, to Sean's point earlier, that we started valuing efficiency once Steph Curry made it so blatant in all of our faces that 3 is more than 2. Before that, the mid-range was king, and that's where Melo dominated in an era that Kobe Bryant also dominated. So I appreciate that we got to watch some of that domination in a Knicks uniform, and I'm glad he's as beloved a Knick alumni every time he's back at the Garden as he deserves to be.
That was extremely well said. Yeah, Melo, Kobe, Iverson, like, can't take these guys out of the era that they played in.
McGrady, yeah.
McGrady's a little different because McGrady was like putting up threes a little bit more than was the norm at the time. But even him, like, you look at his 3-point attempts, it wasn't like it was today. So yeah, like it was the post Jordan era of players where Michael Jordan laid the blueprint and everybody kind of followed that blueprint. And now the blueprint is Steph. You know, no one should begrudge anyone who was trying to follow in the footsteps of the greatest player of all time, even if they were not quite as gifted as him. Like, yeah, Michael Jordan's probably the greatest shot maker in the history of the game. Melo's in the top 10. So, pretty cool that he spent the meat of his career with the Knicks. I think even Sean would agree with that.
But what if we had Julius Randle? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'll
say this because Andrew, you brought it up during when he said, you know, when he see Melo, you know, with Knicks alumni, whatever. Melo really enjoys being a Knick.
Yeah,
for all time.
Oh, loves it,
and that means something to me. And especially in this Knicks for clicks, LOL Knicks era that started in social media, whatever. Is like, nah, he enjoys being a Knick. He enjoys being associated with his franchise, and that freaking matters to me. And that's why, for all the guff I give him, whatever, like, I can only go so far because that dude wanted to be here, glad he was here, and will be associated with this franchise as long as he possibly can. And again, that matters.
As it should. Okay. I think we did the man justice today. What do you guys think?
I enjoyed it as this is a pod I was very ready for today, and I enjoyed. I hope people don't think I was as salty yesterday as I was today. I'm in a much better mood. Let's go Knicks, and let's go Mets.
Both of them. We do have a couple super chats to get to.
3 exactly, and one will lead right into a point that we need to get to. So
yeah, and is it the first? I'm putting up this one first. Okay, here we go from Monroe Doctrine. Monroe, thank you so much for this. We were not expecting anything of this nature during these live shows, but it is much appreciated, and thank you very much. Monroe Doctrine is a very good dude who I've gotten the pleasure of getting to know offline a little bit. So thank you for this. For me, the signing itself was as important as anything he did. We talk about Julius putting us on the map again, but this was similar. And I just wanted to thank KFS for continuing to do work that helps me get through some tough times. Well, it's our pleasure. And yeah, Melo coming here was, and I talked about it, I think a little bit. We talked about it on the Stoudemire episode, Andrew. It was like stat was step one, but Melo coming here put the Knicks on the map in a real way. And then Chandler was kind of like the last piece of that.
Yeah.
Onwards and upwards. Okay, next up, Sam L. We got a couple from Sam L. $5 to make you talk about Lynn, Poison Pill, Melo's ego, and the point guard debacle that ensued the next decade.
There's a second chat from.
Should I put it up right now?
Yeah, okay. I got it up.
The matrix of events that led to Melo's Knicks never accomplishing anything, the Bargnani trade, Phil Jackson, etc., started with Jeremy Lin.
Sean?
I don't have anything.
When I talk about the grasping at straws era, this is what I'm talking about. Like this, and again, I don't hate Jeremy Lin. I don't hate any Knick that ever put the uniform on. Like,
I hate Enes Kanter.
That's fair. You know what? That's
different
fair.
reasons.
Not for I don't. Okay, let's sports hate. I don't sports hate. Well, sports hate is different. Like this sports, whatever. The idea that, and this is why I call it the grasping at straws era. The idea that we had to kowtow and turn the franchise over to Jeremy Lin is asinine, acid 10, acid 11, acid 12. What are we doing here? What are we doing? For 2 weeks? 2 weeks.
It was
17 days to be exact, Sean.
The Lin Hive always forgets that night in Miami when all
I don't
emeritus
forget.
Mario Chalmers and Norris Cole decided you're not getting past half court, and he was like, "Damn, they're right. I guess I'm not getting past half court." Like it's listen. Are there things that Carmelo Anthony did that did not help the franchise? Lord knows I'll be the first one to point them out and raise my hand. But what we are not going to do is say, if you just acquiesce to Jeremy Lin, get what I like to call the fuck out of here, and thank you for your contribution.
But here's the thing,
I was about to say, make sure you end that GTFO with the thank you for your contribution.
Yes, Sean, but here's the thing. If he had just acquiesced to Jeremy Lin, I mean,
who knows? Who knows?
Okay.
Yeah, real quick, we got to clarify something, by the way.
Yes.
So on the dreaded episode, the honorable mention that everybody should go listen to, Sean said that even if you and Jeff ranked him 25th, he still wouldn't have made the list. And I just took it at face value. I then went and did the same thing, and I want to add this to the screen real quick. So we are, wait, did it go up on the screen?
No.
So nothing. Something's up on my computer. I can now just say, not only was Sean incorrect, if Sean had ranked him 25th, then just Sean, then Jeremy Lin ends up being 25th on our list. If Sean and Jeff had ranked him 30th, he ends up making our list. If just both of you had not ranked him 39th and 37th, then Jeremy Lin makes the list. So I think the weight of the ranking actually does fall on Sean. I'm perfectly fine with it though, and I think it's appropriate that the end of the Carmelo Anthony pod is a further renouncing of Linsanity while recognizing Jeremy Lin made both of our lists, John. So
I love
Sam,
Jeremy
we talked
Lin.
about Jeremy Lin.
And I will say one more time, if Jeremy Lin, there would not have been a list if Jeremy Lin wasn't in my top 25. So, okay.
I regret nothing.
You regret nothing.
Here we are. We've been talking about Carmelo Anthony for 100 minutes just about, and we missed a whole Knicks, controversy, Knicks story, because there was a picture, I think it was Popper that posted it, of the Knicks in their blue jerseys for the starters and the gray jerseys for the subs, and Mitch had on the starters jersey. And then we've been talking for so long that I actually got to after practice, and Mike Brown got to comment on it and said, don't read anything into it. Mitch is going to be wearing the gray subs jersey tomorrow. So I don't know what to do with any of that.
So a story came and went. We still don't know who the Knicks starter is going to be.
Yes, and I would bet that we are not going to know their official starting lineup for the regular season until like
game one.
I would say a few days before. Like we'll know it a few days before.
I think it'll be game one. I think literally we'll get
night of.
They'll get morning of. It's the Abu Dhabi game.
No, I'm talking about the regular season.
Oh, I think we'll get maybe we try different starting fives. Yeah, maybe night one of the regular season is where we'll find out. I think we may get some tendencies or lineups we see play more minutes than others. Yeah. If every game of the preseason Mitch is the starter, then I'm assuming Mitch will be the starter. But if one lineup is Deuce, one lineup is Mitch, one lineup is Yabu, one lineup is Josh Hart, then maybe he is just trying everything. So
we'll see. Okay.
Sean, hold on. Sean was going to say something.
Yes.
Sean was going to say something.
I made the mistake of looking at the chat, and Sam L is lighting me up.
Sam going in.
Sam
is going in.
He's calling me a toxic Melo fanboy. Like, Andrew, I'm the
Yeah, that's
media
you, Sean. Toxic
You and-
Mellow fanboy.
You and Sam can take this offline.
yeah. And
Sean,
yes.
At
take over.
Sean with a W.
At me.
Yeah.
Let's argue on Twitter. I haven't done that in a while.
Thank you for your time, Sean. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it very much.
I'm sure you did. Andrew, Claudio, this is the episode you were born to air. So thank you.
The jerseys behind me, Carmelo Anthony. Thank you for your contributions to the New York Knicks, and come on the pod. Let's do a 7 p.m. in Brooklyn crossover.
And I'll just say that it was very embarrassing for me this morning as I was preparing for the episode when I realized that I did not have a single piece of Carmelo Anthony clothing or paraphernalia of any kind that I could sport for this episode, which is not surprising because, again, I was never a big Melo guy. So I hope that I made up for some of that with what I would like to think was a fairly positive outlook on this episode. So Carmelo, if you're out there, yes, come on the pod. Also, I hope you accept my apology for maybe not being your biggest fan while you were here. And on that note, thanks everybody for checking out another episode of the Knicks Film School Podcast. We will be live one more time this week, tomorrow at noon, where we reveal the top Knick, I got the words right, of the last 25 seasons. Who could it be? I don't know. Tune in to find out. And then we will play it by ear from there. But at the very least, definitely going to be live with the post game after the preseason games. And I'm sure we'll have some other stuff popping up before then.
You plug tomorrow. That's all you needed to plug. Tomorrow, join us at noon. That's all we got, folks. That's all you need to be tuning in for tomorrow.
We'll see you tomorrow. Later.